Welcome to this week's episode of On Record PR, where we discuss the topics and insights that matter most to today's law firm leaders. I'm Jennifer Simpson Carr. I am the Vice President of Strategic Development at Fury Rubel Communications, and I am joined by our CEO and General Counsel,
Gina Rubel.
Hi, Gina.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So we are here on Monday, April 21st, and we are getting ready to head to DC, as are thousands of lawyers and legal industry professionals. There are many conferences happening in our capital this week. We have the IAB Policy and Legal Summit, the FIA Law and Compliance Conference, the National Bar Association is having their day on the Hill, and of course, one of the reasons we will be there is the Legal Marketing Association's annual conference.
International conference on that matter. And Jen, I think we should kick it off, since we'll be at that conference and not the others, to wish LMA a happy 40th anniversary. It's amazing that we've been in this industry for so long, and yet it's only 40 years that we've had such a category as legal marketing. So
yes,
that's exciting.
Yes. So happy anniversary, LMA. I know it's an organization that you and I hold near and dear to our hearts. I always acknowledge that without the LMA, I don't think I would have had the career trajectory I've had, and I'm fortunate enough to work here with you and this amazing team. But this is a conference every year that I think brings the attendees energy. It facilitates connection. It allows us to hear in real time the perspectives of our colleagues and have some really meaningful conversations. So we're always prepared for that. And in our show notes, we will post our conference ready checklist. And it really has how to get the most out of your conference experience, regardless of what conference it is, but before you go, during, and after. But
And Jen, I want to mention, it's not just about business development, it's about relationship development. And it really doesn't matter where you are in your career, if you've been out networking for 40 years, or if this is your first conference at, whether you're going to Futures Industry Association or IAB or NBA or ours, LMA. It's really important to have a plan, right? And to get the most out of the investment that either you're spending on your own or that your company is spending on you.
Yes, these conferences are typically a very significant investment of time, money, resources. And so that's a great resource that we have. But we also want to talk today about the challenges that some of the lawyers and legal industry professionals might be facing or feeling this year. It's no secret that our industry is at a really interesting tipping point. I don't even know what else to call it other than that, Gina.
Well, I mean, the legal is one of the industries under attack by the administration. It's just what it is. That's not a political statement. That's a fact. And there are people with different points of view. And I don't want to say both sides, because it's not a two-sided thing. And it's actually not even political. It's just that when you look at the industry, you have to decide, how are we going to handle this, and how are we going to communicate amongst ourselves? And I think that's really important for today's conversation.
So some things we want to explore today are, in light of what's happening, political attacks on law firms, on the rule of law itself. There's heightened anxiety around travel, economic uncertainty. There's just a lot happening right now that might be weighing on people as they travel to these conferences and participate. So we just had a conversation, as we always do. We prep for these conferences, and we had an internal conversation with our team members who are attending. We have 5 team members this year coming. All of us are coming from a different state, some by train, some by plane.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
And so we had an internal conversation that I think is probably worth chatting about. But there is this kind of a heightened sense of what's happening in our industry.
There is a heightened sense of what's happening in the industry, Jennifer. And so one of the things I think we should do is we should share a couple of good things, some resources that are out there right now and things that are happening in the industry, and then just have a conversation about the best way to proactively enjoy these times, even if you're not enjoying the times.
That's a great way to put it. So, a couple of the resources Gina mentioned and some things that have happened in the last week or so is that the AmLaw 100 came out. So, we will drop a link to that. It noted that 58% of firms posted a gross revenue of over $1 billion or more in 2024, which is crazy how far our industry continues to grow. Law.com also had a great webinar, so it's available on demand. If you weren't able to attend that, we'll drop the link as well. Given what's happening in our industry, Above the Law came out with a spine index in which it's rating the top 200 law firms in our country and where they fall on the issues with our administration. And a really great article came out this morning from law.com talking about the impact that the firm's positions on what's happening in our industry is having on recruiting and retention of partners versus associates. So we'll drop the link for that article as well. And I think it's really important to review those and kind of understand going into these conferences what's happening in our industry and, be prepared to talk about some of these things that are top of mind for everyone right now.
Absolutely. And, Jen, with that, I do want to talk about, going to a conference. We need to set the stage though, because this year really does feel pretty different. So,
Yeah.
I'm so hesitant to say go and have fun, because none of us are really in the legal industry. I think Above the Law said, especially if you're in PR, this is, one of the most difficult and taxing jobs right now. And people in marketing, it's the same because whether you're in-house or you're a consultant to a firm, there's a lot to be dealt with. And you have this backdrop, it's political, it's social, it's regulatory tension. It's tension among people who have been friends for years. And the ongoing debates about AI, DEI, talent, firm identity, like there's just so much going on, right? So how do you go to a conference and be present and still be true to yourself, no matter where you fall in the political divide right now? So what's your plan for that?
So I think something I'm going to be very intentional about on the train tomorrow is having questions that I can ask other attendees about how they are doing and what they're doing that is exciting them or challenging them, and also having responses that I'm comfortable sharing. I know that not everyone agrees on everything, but I do think these conferences offer a real opportunity to hear what challenges people are facing, what they're looking forward to. So I think taking the time myself to give thought to conversations I anticipate will really help me prepare.
I think one of the things we need to do, and if we remember when George Floyd was murdered, we were all telling people, ask your Black and brown friends, how are you doing? Are you okay? It's really okay to do that. It's okay to ask anyone in a marginalized community, and anyone for that matter, how are you doing? Are you feeling okay? Is there anything I can do for you? That in and of itself, that empathy, that emotional intelligence is so important right now because you don't know how other people are doing. And while we take for granted in normal times, normal being not when so many changes are happening all at once, in more seamless times, we take for granted and we often forget to ask. And I think that's one of the things that you could be asking people, how are you? Is there anything I can do for you? Remember, it's not all about us. And, we talked a little bit as we were prepping for this podcast about using language for people. One of the things I learned many, many years ago, in my 20s, I had this great this great therapist, and was learning how to communicate, and we think we know everything in our early 20s, and I certainly did not know how to communicate. And she taught me to learn to respect that something is someone else's feeling. That's how they feel. That's their opinion. And that my opinion doesn't have to be somebody else's opinion. So it's really okay to say, I respect that that is your opinion or your belief. And listen to the words. I respect that that is your opinion. You don't have to respect the opinion, because then if you said that, you wouldn't have integrity. But I've learned to say that over the years, and it's really helped me to respect that other people have other points of view.
Mm-hmm.
So I can say, I respect that that is your opinion. I happen to disagree, but we can agree to disagree. We don't have to make that part of our current conversation, so that we can cut that barrier down and move on and enjoy the time we do have together. And frankly, I find myself saying that even with family members who, we just have different political views.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to argue about it all the time, even if you're among the enraged or outraged factions on either side of the many sides of the fence. There's above, below, right, left, whichever
Yeah.
way, front, back, whichever way you want to look at it. So that's just one of the things I wanted to share with people, is that you can diffuse those types of conversations just by being kind. You don't have to like the person's views. And I can tell you there's many views I don't like, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean they're wrong. They're just somebody else's views. So what about, when you presented to our team about going to the conference, you gave them some priorities. What were some of them?
So as a team, we always divide and conquer. We make sure that we're all attending different sessions and collecting the key themes and takeaways to bring back to our team and then ultimately share with our clients. But I think some context is thinking about the agency's goals and thinking about our clients' goals. What do we know our clients are working on? What do we know that is coming ahead for our clients? And listening in each of our conversations and in each of those sessions, how could this information impact our agency or improve our work for clients or reframe the strategy that we're about to give on a certain project. And I think going into each session and each conversation, thinking about what's happening and what lies ahead allows us to start thinking about what we're hearing in a way that can really make impact on our firms, on our clients, on our team.
I agree with that. And Jen, with that, I want to take a quick break for a message from our sponsor.
Okay.
This episode is brought to you by Furia Rubel Communications, a public relations and marketing agency serving law firms and businesses worldwide. With an expert team positioned throughout the U.S. and supported by an international faculty, Furia Rubel enhances our clients' brands through integrated communications by providing expert guidance in crisis management and high-profile litigation, protecting brand and reputation, and supporting internal marketing teams. To learn more, visit furiarubel.com.
So we're back. And Jennifer, you were talking about things that our teammates can be thinking about at the conference. How do we show up? What do we tell people about showing up?
As their authentic selves. And I hear that from you all the time. You have to show up as you. And I will say, just very candidly, there are risks that come along with that, right? I mean, we have team members traveling, we all have team members traveling that may fall into a marginalized group or a group that might be feeling more pressure than others right now. And so I think showing up as your authentic self, but as attendees, respecting and honoring that. You said earlier, you may not have to agree with someone, but respecting that's who they are and honoring that's how they show up, I think is an important part of attending any conference. You and I had the opportunity at Legal Week to attend a really great session on Operation Safe Spaces. And
Mhm.
I think that's something that we had a very heartfelt conversation with our teammates about is feeling safe, feeling respected, and providing that safe space and respect to everyone that we meet.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about traveling smart, staying safe.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the last time I was in DC, it felt very palpable, and that was before they destroyed the Black Lives Matter memorials and things like that. So it's going to be hard for people, and we have many people coming from other countries.
Mm-hmm.
This is an international association. We know that our friends in Canada feel very uncomfortable coming into the United States right now. They feel like they're targets. We know that people who are in the who identify as LGBTQIA plus are feeling uncomfortable. There's a lot going on. So
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the things that we've done for our team? What are some of the things that make you feel safe?
I'm traveling with more documentation than I ever have. I am flying out of DC to another state, but I'm traveling with my documentation. I feel more comfortable that way. I know as a team, we had a conversation that we are requiring the buddy system.
Mhm.
Our teammates are not walking to and from venues by themselves, regardless of what time of day it is. We've set up a team chat on our cell phones so that we can easily and quickly get in touch with one another if needed. Um, a
We've
couple of, yeah,
rolled out our code of conduct as a result
yes.
of the Legal Week learnings. Um, we've put an actual limit on alcohol use. Our event, we're gonna have both, a huge meal, lots of food, but also both non-alcoholic beverages, alternative beverages for those who prefer not to participate
Mhm,
in the let's get slosh sessions, which I've never enjoyed. So not just not my thing. So I think what I'm hearing is there are a lot of ways to make people feel safe, and it's
mhm,
not just women. I think a lot of people think because we're just two women speaking, but it's about everyone. It's about, it's also if you see something, say something. So if you see a colleague being bullied, if you see a colleague being harassed in any way, and it doesn't have to be sexual, if any of those, you have to say something, which is another reason we set up the text. You and I are the key go-to people for our team. So just think it's important because it's a different time now. And there are people out there who feel empowered and emboldened to not be nice.
So it's interesting that you mention some of those key tips because after Legal Week, I posted on LinkedIn a picture of my Legal Week badge and the offer to be a safe space for anyone if they were ever in an unwelcome conversation, if they ever felt uncomfortable. And I bring that up because, to your point, it's not just two women speaking on a podcast. I was overwhelmed by the comments publicly and also the messages I received from people of all backgrounds, all
Mhm.
genders, um, and just the thanks for bringing up a topic that has been taboo for so not just women who look and sound like us. It was people from all backgrounds and walks of life. So I think that's a really important point is that it's not just looking out for the women in the room. It's really looking out for every single person that's participating.
And when we talked about being safe and staying safe, you mentioned travel. And for those of you who are traveling on any form of public transportation, especially those coming to the United States or traveling within the United States on if you're a visa holder or something like that, just be smart. If you're not going through immigration, there's a lot less to be concerned about. But if you are, I would suggest taking a listen to, we had about a 25-minute podcast last week with Wendy Castor Hess. So I don't want to um, repeat everything that she shared here, Jen, for sake of time, but there's some great tips on
Mhm.
traveling, being smart, and understanding what's happening at ports of entry. So I just encourage people to listen to that. And, another resource, we had Renee Branson on, who's a resilience coach, and we had her on the podcast not too long ago. And I think listening to that and to learn ways to be resilient, um, even if that means stepping away. Like if it
Mhm.
says, you know, I mean, you know this about me, Jen. I'm no longer the late night gal that I used to be years and years and years ago. I'm kind of like, okay, it's 9:30. I'm going to bed now. But it's okay, even if it's 6:30 in the evening, to say, I needed to go to my room and decompress.
Mhm.
You know, just taking the time you need for you, but still being able to show up as your best and authentic self. So, um, what other thoughts do you have? What other resources do we have for our listeners that would be helpful, whether they're going to one of these 4 conferences or any other conference in the near future?
Yes, it's conference season is upon us.
And
So
events,
we
and
will,
it's nonstop, right? So,
yes, yes, and back in person. It feels like everything's in person now. So we will put some more resources in the show notes on our website. But one thought I had, and something I want to ask you as the leader of our agency, is as someone who really oversees the whole team, right? Our whole agency, and you know, I guess to your peers who are really the leaders that the teams look to, what are your words of advice going into, I guess just generally going into a conference for the first time that, you know, we're feeling kind of a different way than we have in years past, to, like you said, balance enjoying it to the extent people can, but protecting themselves and their mental health.
well, number one is, I think for LMA in particular, we've made some of the best friends that we've ever made in our adulthoods, right? You meet people when you meet them in college, in high school, and then college, if you go to college, and you might meet them as part of your religious institution participation, but then you also meet them in industry, right? And so some of the best friends I have now, I've met as a result of this industry. And I really enjoy seeing them. So take advantage of the time you get to see people, embrace them, right? People have differences of opinions. And I mean, I have family members and we have differences of opinions, but it's okay to give them a hug, say, how are you doing? And just enjoy your time together. It's okay to laugh, even if you're feeling very emotionally charged. I know that I have my own very strong opinions, but my job is not to share necessarily my opinions with everyone. My job is to make sure that our team feels supported and healthy, that they feel safe, that our clients feel safe and supported and healthy.
Mhm.
So have some other things to talk about. I mean, unfortunately, you know, and I say this, yes, I was raised Catholic, and today was a very sad day in the Catholic community with the Pope's passing. But maybe you find some words of wisdom from somewhere in his messages or elsewhere if you have those conversations. I know you should stay away from religion too, but you know, it is a current event, right? It's something that just happened this morning. Find other things to talk about. You know, I know our friend Roy Sexton, past president of LMA, he's always talking about music
Mhm.
and all, you know, really joyous things. And he finds a lot of happiness in other things because you can. Um, I have to put a shout out to our daughter who got engaged yesterday. And so I'm going to be beaming with congratulations, sweetheart. Going to be beaming with joy about our daughter, Gianna, and her now fiance, Josh. That's going to take me a while to remember to say.
Mhm.
But there are other things happening in life. And I said this to somebody yesterday at our Easter/engagement celebration. I said, it's okay to talk about other things. And but I feel like after my dad died 13 years ago, the world kept going and I was so devastated. I could not wrap my head around everybody else just kept going. And here I am feeling like this. And I think everybody is having a little sense of that in some way, no matter what their political views are.
Mhm.
Like we know we're going to go into DC and there's things that have changed. And you know, you started saying our nation's capital, and I'm like, oh, you know, like I feel pain. I feel a sense of loss. I feel almost like when my dad died, like there's something missing in this world that was so important to me, which is that for me, it's that level of decorum, that level of leadership, of respecting one another, the things that I've always cherished. Um, And I know that a lot of people are feeling that, and it's okay to feel that and not have to express it 24/7.
Mhm.
It's just not easy. And and know who you're talking to. That's another thing. And if read the cues. So many people don't read body language. You know, if my arms are up and crossed, back off. Like, I know that I'm very mindful of my body language, but if I do that, that means I'm going into uncomfortable territory and I start to protect myself, right? So
Mhm.
that's truth for everyone. So be mindful of how others are feeling. Remember that this is LMA's 40th anniversary, that they represent firms on, going through everything, that our colleagues are in firms going through everything. Some of them are like, yes, I'm on the side of this current administration, and others of us are like, not even a little bit. But it's still not about us individually. It's about our brands. It's about our companies that are investing in us to be there. It's about the institution, the organization, and it's about the friendships. And that's what I enjoy.
Mhm.
And I remember after my dad died too, somebody said, it's okay to laugh. And I felt guilty if I laughed. And I really still and I'm bringing that up because I feel like something has died in me this year. Like, I really do. And I'm being honest about that. And like, there's a sense of loss. And when you have that, you're afraid to laugh. You're afraid to be happy. You feel like people are going to think you're happy, but they're suffering. It's okay. Just be respectful.
Right.
Don't talk to people the way some of the people we're seeing in the media are talking to one another. Just be kind. It's not that hard. It's just not that hard. And, I think that's how we've found all of our best clients, because like breeds like.
Mhm.
And we end up working with the most incredible clients because they want empathy, they want respect, they want leadership, they want guidance. They don't want to be argued with, but they
Mhm.
also know you'll respectfully take a different position. And, you show up as your authentic self, and you're going to find people who want to be there authentically with you. So, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to enjoy everyone's time.
Mhm.
Um, and I can still deeply respect the rule of law and be very clear about that without being obnoxious.
It's great perspective and it's great advice. And I appreciate the insight. I'm going to think a lot tomorrow on the train about what you said because I agree. I think if we're feeling heavy, sometimes it does feel guilty to laugh or to feel like you're having a great time when things around you might not be feeling great. So,
Well, I only get to see all these people once a year most of the time. You and I are
yes.
fortunate to work together. So I'm going to be giving lots of Gina hugs as people has known them as they've become known, and just really enjoying being with people and still being my authentic self. I mean, I'll go down fighting for the rule of law. Bottom line.
Well, I think that probably concludes our time today. So I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And we welcome your feedback and questions at podcast@onrecordpr.com. We love getting your comments. We love getting your ideas. So please keep sending them. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes. And if you are attending LMA this week, please look out for Gina, myself, one of our fabulous teammates, also attending Doreen Clark, Ryan Hayden Young, and Kyla Thompson. And we will see you all next week.
And don't forget to download any of the resources that we'll have shared on the website in the show notes.
Yes.
See everyone soon.
Bye.
On Record PR is produced by Jennifer Simpson Carr and Matt Henderson, with support from the team at Rubel Communications. This episode is edited by Isabel Horan and Christian Yamula. Visit www.onrecordpr.com for resources and more information.